Recording as well. And if you see date time, today's date time is this 12:17 p.m. Sunday 13 September, right? So before starting the session I would be opening this page all the way. Fine. So let us start with something called as TypeScript. I am creating new folder, and here you can say day 2, and under the day 2 we are going to discuss about the TypeScript. Hope you have completed this homework, which is very easy. It is not that difficult. So in the day 2 we are going to start with the TypeScript. So I can create a file, and here you can say app.ts. App dot what? TS. Now when you talk about TypeScript, it is a JavaScript only, but it is a typed JS. It is a JS only, but it is typed JS. If you go here, what they are say, typed JavaScript at any scale, right? What is a TypeScript? JavaScript and more, a result can trust, and the gradual adoption, whatever they have written something. But at the beginning you need to understand TypeScript extends JavaScript by adding types. By understanding JavaScript, TypeScript saves you time caching errors and providing fixes before you run the code. Types. What do you mean by TypeScript? Let us see. So instead of this, rename, and I can say basics or types.ts. Okay. Instead of that, we are going to see something called as types.ts. Now when you talk about TypeScript, right, it is a JavaScript. Remember that it is what? JavaScript. So when you talk about JavaScript, it contains ES6 as well as older JS also. What is ES6? I will come to that point little bit later on. But presently I need to tell you what is a TypeScript, because Angular, if you go to the Angular repository, GitHub, Angular, can you go to the Angular repository, and can you see 86% of the code is written in TypeScript and 8% code is written in JS and whatever other things are there. But if you see, 86% code is written in the TypeScript. So just a moment, GitHub, TypeScript, open source programming language by Microsoft. Open source programming language by Microsoft. Remember that. So this is a TypeScript, is a language for application scale JavaScript. TypeScript adds optional types to the JavaScript. See, TypeScript adds optional types to the JavaScript that support tools for large scale JavaScript application for any browser, for any host, any OS, right? TypeScript compiles to the readable standard based JS, right? So you can try either at the playground or you can install TypeScript on your machine. Let's do that. So I'm going to copy this, right, and let me paste it. I hope you have a little bit background of Node, means what are the packages, how to install that, and other stuff. If not, I would be creating one more video on that, so you will get to know. So npm install /g, TypeScript. So we are installing the TypeScript right now. See, a latest version of the TS is 402 that has been installed on your machine, right? They have asked us to do that. Now I'll come to the VS Code. In the day 2, I have created one file called as types.ts. Now here, if you see, I'm going to use var and nm is equals to any, this thing, where nm is equals to any, and then I create a function. You can say name, give me the name, then function my name, you can say my name, and then log, console.log, and let's print nm. Or instead of that, let's try to assign nm is equals to 10. nm is equals to 10. Can you see the VS Code is having type checker or the compiler, and that compiler is saying that there is an error where nm is equals to string, right? And type 10 is not assignable to the type string. This is not assignable to this. Now what's the reason? Reason behind this is, if you go here and just hover the cursor, can you see where nm, it has been added something colon string. You haven't written over here, but that is added, that is added by default. Can you see? From the value, the variable type is getting decided. So from the value, it is deciding the type of variable, right? And that's why here you have allocated string, and here you are allocating what? Number. So string is one of the data type and number is one of the data type. So it has not been written over here, but you can write something like this: string, right, is equals to this. And that's why here you cannot do like this. You need to assign any string over here like this, right? Similarly, you can have where mobile, or you can say age is equals to 10. And then if you try to do age is equals to like this, impossible, because by default TypeScript will take type as a number. See, this is not available in the JS. Remember that this thing is not available in the JS of giving type. Now what it does, what it happens, can you see? It is giving me the error. So if it could be the JS, let's go to the JS file, right? And see here, I will create var c ar is equals to BMW, right? Till this line it is working okay. The moment you say car is 10, still it is okay. Means till the line number 23 and above, car is of type string, and suddenly car becomes what? Number. Suddenly car becomes what? Number. So this is what we can say not allowed in the TS, which will solve many your problems. A compile time type checking will solve your multiple problems, right? So TypeScript has added many types in the, at its core there are types, right? Well, there is a number where you can say is mobile, you can say is of type boolean, is equals to true false, that is also okay. Is mob, is of type boolean, true false, right? Where then float is also number, right? If you have precision variables, you can say salary 15.6, this is also number, right? You write it. Remember that in a TypeScript, it is not always necessary to write the type after the colon, right? It is not always necessary to write the type like this. TypeScript will understand on its own. So it is not like that you have written a variable means you need to give a type. But there are some cases like you are writing a function and here you write what you can say is mob, right? So is mob is of type anything right now. So give a specific type of type boolean, right? Even function can have a return type. You can say void. This function is going to return void, or it is going to return int, or it is going to return not int, number, boolean, string, right? So it is going to return something like that, or it is going to return what? Void. Void means returning nothing, right? Void means what? Returning nothing. So you can call my name and here you can pass true, and here you can pass what? True, something like that. So this assignment will happen. So these are the traditional types. Now TypeScript is a language that application scale language for application scale JS. TypeScript adds optional types to the JS that support tools for large scale JavaScript application for any browser, for any host, for any OS. Now second part, TypeScript compiles to readable standards based JS. What is this? Compiles to some standard thing. So you go here, then control, and below the escape there is one button tilde. Click on that. Can you see your terminal will open in the editor? Control and the tilde, right? Control and tilde, below the escape there is a button. If you click that, your what you can say a terminal will open, right? Terminal will open. Just save it, this TS file. Where we have written what? Okay, nothing. Mistakenly we haven't written anything. Now you can see this TSC. This is a command. If you want to invoke the TypeScript compiler, command is TSC. If you want to invoke TypeScript compiler, you need to hit the command TSC, and this command is available only after installing the TypeScript on your machine. This command is applicable, or this command can be used only after installing TypeScript on your machine, right? TSC, and name of your file types dot, okay, we are not inside that, cd day 2, sorry, day 2. Let's clear that, and here you can say TSC types dot ts, TSC types dot ts. Can you see here? If you have any error, right? If you have any error, the compilation won't be successful. Compilation won't be successful, and you will get an error, right? TXC types dot ts. If compilation is successful, one JS file would be getting created. If you see, TypeScript compiles to the readable standard based JS. Now you see here, this JS has been created from the TS. At the moment, there is no difference. Make sure that at the moment, in this file and in this file, there is no difference, right? Just semicolons are added, semicolons are removed. Remember that semicolons are removed from the ES6, JavaScript 6. We are going to have a separate session on that, right? So where nm, here semicolon is there, here there is no semicolon. And can you see this type in the JS has been removed? Make sure that TypeScript is for developers understanding. Your browser will never understand TypeScript directly, and that's why it is absolutely necessary to convert this TS to the JS. And who will do that? TypeScript compiler, right? Now presently this is okay. Now what I can do, let me create new file, and here I can say classes and objects dot ts. Okay, classes and objects dot ts. Let me close these things. Classes and objects ts. So I'll write only this much class. What is export and other thing we are going to see? Class car. You'll see that. We are going to see what do you mean by this thing. But effectiveness of the TS you will get to know. Why is the effectiveness of the TS? So export class car we have. Now let me try to convert it, or let me write one function, speed up. Speed up is one simple function I have written in a class. Don't worry, you don't know what do you mean by classes right now, how to write the classes right now, but you will get to know a little bit later on. But just for giving you the significance of the TypeScript, I have written this class. Now let me compile it. TSC, and here you can say classes and objects.ts. See, if some compilation is successful, JS file would be getting created, or TS is going to be transpiled to the JS. Hit the enter. Hit the enter, and can you see classes.object.js? Now see, if I convert this, what you will prefer, this one or this one? Just 5 lines of the code, and here approximately double. See this, use strict, whatever they have written the code, and this thing. Well, this is more understandable, but browser will not understand this directly, right? Browser will always understand the JS, and that's why conversion of the TS to the JS, if you are shipping the code in the browser, is needed. Is what? Needed. But the frameworks like Node.js is there, which is a server-side framework, not a client-side framework. They have direct TS interpreters. I'll show you that. Node.js TypeScript. Node.js TypeScript. Okay. Node.js what? TypeScript and GitHub. TS node is not this. Why starter is coming? Starters we don't need. TS node. TS node is the thing that you need. Yeah, see this. Means straight away you can use TypeScript in a Node.js straight away. Okay, something like this. Instead of node, we work with the TS node. Okay, But at the browser level, this is not possible right now. So browser can only understand JS. So it is really important to convert this TS code into what? JS code. Okay, let me push this much code and see this JS files has been created. If you don't want to push, you don't push, something like that. Here I can say Typescript types. Okay, I am pushing the code. If you are having a problem in committing, means there might be some conflicts. Okay, I have pushed the code. So what you can do, just go through the code in a 2 to 3 minutes, right? Ask me the queries if you have, and we'll start again. So let me stop the recording, pause the recording. If you have any queries, please ask me. Harish, if you have any queries, please ask me. Okay.
Sir, why you use that export?
We'll see that. Don't worry about that. So you don't know
Okay.
all these things right now, but we are going to see that. Okay. So don't worry about that. I just have written this thing to tell you what is the significance of TS. So still classes and object has not been started. We are looking at types only. Do you have any queries in the types? Do you have any queries in the types?
No.
Okay. So when you say types, right, these are the standard types, data types, that is string, number, boolean, number, right? Well, there are some advanced types also. Means what you can say, where I can write obj is equals to JavaScript object, sorry, is equals to what? JavaScript object. Obj, let me see, recording is on. Yeah, it's on. Yeah. So where obj is equals to object. Now TS says that you can write something like that, colon, and you can say obj is of type what? Object. Remember that in a TS, after the colon there is a type. Remember that after the colon there is a what? Type. So this is a type. So where obj is of type object. Well, you can fine grain also. It is a JavaScript object, like you can say, or DP, display picture, would be something.
Sir, your screen is not visible.
Oh, thank you for informing. Now can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now here you can say where obj is of type. Remember that obj is of type what? Object. And is equals to object, and here you are giving some display picture, some string presently, path, something like that, right? And the id would be 10. This is the JavaScript object, right? We are writing from many years. So where obj is of type object is equals to this JavaScript object. Remember that this obj. Well, you can specifically define obj specific is equals to, is of type, sorry, not equals to, is of type object. Remember that here you are specifying whose keys are of type string. This is, you are defining the key whose keys are of type string and whose values are of type any. Remember that in a not Kotlin, in a JavaScript, sorry, in a TypeScript, any is also type which can hold anything. So value, or you can say boolean values, it will hold only booleans, right? Can you see, if you assign 10 to this, it is giving you an error. So you need to have object. Here you can say key would be the string, any string. Here you can say age, and value would be the boolean. See, then and only then it is valid. So if you want to do something like that, now see it is giving an error, because here you are saying key would be is of type string. We are giving a key is of type string, and its value would be of type boolean, but you are giving what? Number, and that's why it is giving you an error. If you make it true false, then it will work. Are you getting that? So this is a normal object, any object which can hold anything, which can hold what? Anything. And specific object, so you are saying that keys would be string all the time and values would be of type boolean. Are you getting that? Hello? Remember that this is a little bit specific. If you want to define the specific objects, you can do something like this. Values are of type boolean, right? So something like that. So JavaScript or TypeScript says that there would be the mixed type is equals to, sorry, is of type number or is of type boolean or is of type, what we can say, string. So you can either write number, that is also okay. You can either write object, which will give you an error, which you can write string, that is okay, or you can write true false, that is also okay. So mixed type is available in the TS. Available in what? TS. Any question you have on this? Okay, then TS is giving you one more type. TS is giving you what? One more type. You can say var fn is equals to function, the variable which can hold the function. If you have such variables which can hold the function, TS says that give the type something like this. A function, now let me explain this first. A function with 0 parameters and no return type. So you can write return type also, void, and you can give one parameter, boolean. Say is okay, is of type boolean. So fn is of type function. Presently there is no type, but TypeScript has understood the type. If you go to that, it will tell you fn is of type function. Remember that after the colon, whatever you see is a data type. After the colon, from this colon to the D, everything is a data type, which means that this fn is of type function. Remember that function is represented in this way, void, and it has one parameter, is okay, is of type boolean. See, after the fn there is a colon, and after the colon, from this to this, everything is what? Data type. So you are specifying that, I'm repeating myself, right? fn is a variable, is of type function, who has only one parameter of type boolean, and who is going to return the value of type void, and who is going to return the void type of data. If you see this, fn is a variable whose type is function. Remember that, whose type is what? Complete function. And that function can be said like this: function has one parameter of type boolean, and that function is returning what? Void. But remember that whatever selected, that is nothing but what? Function is. So fn would be holding function only. Fn is equals to 56 would be an error. So you can create a function, means you can assign my name to fn. See, fn is equals to my name, referring to the function. Well, if it is returning the string, and here return hi, fn is equals to my name is mob boolean is returning of type string. Okay, okay, remember that remember that return types, right, are omitted while checking at the in many programming language. Return types are always omitted, but remember that, just hold on, if I make instead of boolean, okay, because it is not returning any boolean from here, let's return true. Yeah, here it needs to be boolean, then it's okay. Okay, now see, now it is, so earlier it was a void, right? Earlier here it was what? Void. So your function was returning what? Void. Your function was returning void, and here also there were void, there was no need, which means that if there is a void type, that is okay. See, now there is a difference in function. This function is returning what? Void. If you see together, this function is returning what? Is of type void, and this function is returning what type, but still the assignment is okay. It is because of void. If there is a void, it can accept any data type. I can say boolean, hi, so it is returning true, still it is okay. See, return type is void. Are you getting that? What I'm trying to tell you is that, so fn is a function, fn is a variable that holds a function who accept one parameter and returns what? Void. Who accept one parameter and returns what? Void. Are you getting that? But here you have assigned my name. My name parameter is matching, but return type is not matching. Still this assignment is okay. Still this assignment is what? Okay. Because of this void. If there is a void, any data type is possible in that sense. Okay. So many types we have seen. Well, there is one more type called as any, where anything, variable name is what? Anything, is of type any. So here you can assign boolean true, that is also okay. You can assign hi, that is string, that is also okay. You can assign 12, that is also okay, and many things. Or you can assign object, that is also okay. So string, number, boolean, mixed type, a function type, and something like that. Function and something like that. Okay. So these many are the types. Let me push this much code so you can see that. Typescript types. I am pushing the code. Well, I would be uploading today all the recordings on the YouTube. Okay, so I have pushed the code. Please go through the code in 2 minutes and you can ask me any query if you have. Hello, I have started the recording. Can you see my screen? Hello.
No, sir.
Okay, do you have any questions related to that? Any questions related to that? Any questions? This is about the type. Yes, Harish.
It is, yeah, it is mandatory to mention the types. Can
Not
you,
not necessary. TypeScript will understand from the value. But as I
okay,
said, If you
What is the
write
good for that?
if you
Is it
write
good?
function or other things, then you can mention the type. Yes, what did you say?
It is good practice.
Ha, it's a good practice, you can say. It's a good practice to mention the types. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, any other question?
No, sir.
Yeah. So I hope you can see my screen. Okay? Now, now what we need to do is, how many types are there? So these many types are there, right? Even the mixed type, you can do many things. Then another in the TypeScript, see, we are not going to cover complete TypeScript, otherwise it would be too much lengthier just only on the TypeScript. Our focus is the Angular, right? And Angular is written in the TypeScript, and Angular can be coded in the TypeScript. Your Angular applications can be in a sorry, that would be in a TypeScript. That's why we are learning, or we are getting overview, or you can say brush up session of the TypeScript. So you need to know these types. Okay. Then another thing is classes and objects. Right. So let me remove the export keyword right now. We'll see that later on. What do you mean by export? Now, if you can see class car. Now, the term class is having wide scope. So that is coming from something called as object oriented principles. Right. So whenever you make your project, right, so everything should be the segregated at the proper place, right? And classes and objects will give you much more efficiency than that. So when you talk about a class, you are talking about something, right, which would be having state and the behavior, which would be having what? State and the behavior. So if you can see this circuit in my hand, right, this is one of the board called as ESP32. If you can see this, this is a ESP32 board, right? I'm defining what do you mean by class. So this is the ESP32 board, and when you talk about the board or the chip, right, you are talking what you are exactly talking about, what this can do. Are you getting that? So let me remove this class. Even you can delete this JS file which has been created by that, right? So I can create a class chip or ESP32 chip. Just I'm giving you example, or ESP chip. Let's remove the 32. There are two flavors, ESP86 and ESP32. So ESP chip we have. Now when you talk about chip, or when you talk about some of the entity that you are holding in your hand, means what exactly you are talking about. So you are talking about what that chip can do, right, and how that chip can be operated. Are you getting that? So you can say Wi-Fi connectivity. So ESP can do Wi-Fi connectivity. Wi-Fi connectivity. So it can create a Wi-Fi, and your mobile can connect to that chip. Well, there is something called as BLE connectivity. BLE communication. Com we can say instead of communication. And this thing. Remember that what that chip is doing is Wi-Fi communication and the BLE communication. So what it is doing, we are call it as behavior. We call it as what? Behavior. This is also behavior. This is also behavior. Anyone join or what? Okay. So Wi-Fi communication is behavior. BLE communication is a behavior. Right. Mostly ESP is used for these two things. If you want to create your own Wi-Fi connectivity, you can use BLE, or sorry, you can use ESP or Bluetooth low energy. BLE is nothing but Bluetooth low energy. Your wearable devices can be built on the top of this. Okay. And the theoretical definition or the definition inside book is class is nothing but combination of state and the behavior. So there are some registers inside that chip. You can say registers is of type, presently we can say number, is of type number. Remember that this guy is called as state because Wi-Fi has some different registers. So here you can say number array, registers at the 0th location, sorry, registers of 0, you can put 1. Remember that if you want to point to the variable inside a class, you need to use one keyword called as this dot. Register is equals to 1 and this dot register at the first position is of 2. And let's initialize that array. And if you want to work with the BLE, another 2 registers, say 4 and 5, you need to change it. Well, this is a very superficial code I have written, but remember that when you talk about class, you are talking about state and you are talking about behavior. Behavior is the function, right? Behavior in the programmatical world, you can call it as state as the variables of the class and behavior as functions or methods of the class. So when you are talking about what you can say classes, you are talking about combination of different states and combination of behavior. So when you talk about a class is nothing but state and the behavior. Remember that. So Wi-Fi communication is going to change these registers and Bluetooth communication is going to change these registers, and register is what? State. Are you getting that? What do you mean by, what you can say, what do you mean by classes? Class is that entity which is having state and the behavior. Remember that your behavior always operates on the state. Behavior is operating on the state. So this is a state, this is a behavior, this is a state, this is a behavior, which is manipulating the state. Okay. So you have written arrays are defined in this way and arrays are initialized in this way. Just empty array you have initialized and something like that. Okay. Fine. So class ESP chip, this and this. Well, in the object oriented principles we have learned there are 4 pillars. Can you tell me what are the 4 pillars of object oriented principle? Inheritance. Interviewers ask this question. They like this question. What are the 4 pillars of object oriented principle? Inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, and polymorphism. I don't know the spelling. Morphism. So pardon me for the spellings. So inheritance, second encapsulation, third abstraction, and fourth polymorphism. These are the 4 principles, object oriented principles, pillars of object oriented principles, right? So whatever you have done so far, right? Whatever you have done so far is a class you created. Now let's see abstraction first. What do you mean by abstraction? Now I don't have access straight away to the registers of this chip. For that I need to call some functions, right? For that I need to call some functions. Like if I want to communicate with the Wi-Fi, I need to call the Wi-Fi com function. If I want to communicate with the Bluetooth, I need to call Bluetooth com function. Means your access is limited to these functions, and that's why this would be the private and these two would be the public. Remember, in the TypeScript, if you don't attach the access modifier, by default that would be what? Public. If you mention it or you don't mention it, remember, but if you don't mention it, this is a public, this is also public, and if you specifically make it private, this is a private. Now what do you mean by access modifier? Which is coming from the abstraction, giving needed information and hiding unwanted information. That registers we are not going to allow. It is not unwanted, but due to some reasons we have make it private. Means I just need to give access to the Wi-Fi and the BLE. If you get access of register number, so what I want to do, I want to limit the access to the register number 0145, and 2 and 3 are related to the switch on and switch off. I don't want to give that access. I just want to give access to what you can say Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Are you getting that? I just want to give access to the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, but remaining registers can manipulate the chip completely. So I don't want to give that access, and that's why I have made this very crucial part or very important part, which is nothing but my data, as a private. And I have written two handles or two behaviors, one for handling Wi-Fi communication and one for handling Bluetooth communication, right? Okay, so remember that Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, and this is what the abstraction is. So hiding the crucial data and giving access by means of behavior only. Giving access by means of behavior only. You need to go on writing the behavior. So tomorrow you are writing switch on off, right? Switch on off. Then you are going to manipulate other two registers. At that time you will not having registers for what you can say another type of data communication. So that is the principle behind the abstraction. Now what do you mean by polymorphism? What do you mean by polymorphism? One behavior can take different forms. One behavior can take different forms. Well, polymorphism can be understood greatly in Java, right, or .NET, right? But here I will try to explain the polymorphism in my own way. So we have a Bluetooth communication. We have what? Bluetooth communication, and see here I am going to pass the type is of type boolean. Is of type what? Boolean. Are you getting that? Now this boolean type can be null, or this boolean type can be defined or undefined. See, I have added a question mark. Question mark means, this question mark means optional. You pass it or you don't. Whenever you call this function, you pass it or you don't pass it, that is okay. Means you can work with this, you can work with this optionalness either by passing true or false or by passing nothing, right? There is a Wi-Fi com, you can say there is a Wi-Fi communication here, you can say here also I will add TYP is of type boolean, and here you can say default parameters, say true. You, if you pass the type, it will take that value, and if you don't pass the type, it will take true. So I have covered two concepts of the TypeScript, which is nothing but default parameter, default parameters, and this is optional parameters. Default parameters and what? Optional parameters. Now this function can be called in a multiple forms. This function can be called, or this function can take multiple forms. So polymorphism means having the multiple forms. So Wi-Fi communication, either you can pass boolean or you don't pass boolean, right? I'll show you. Now let me create object over here. So where chip is equals to ESP chip new ESP chip. I'll come back to this point, what is this exactly, and see chip dot BLE communication. See, I have called straight away chip dot true, sorry, chip dot BLE communication true. I can say chip dot Wi-Fi communication. See, I haven't passed anything, and chip dot Wi-Fi communication true. Getting that? So BLE communication has been called in a two ways. Wi-Fi communication has been called in a two ways. One with variable, without variable, sorry, with variable, without variable, with variable, without variable, right? So this thing is called as multiple forms. There are many explanations over this, but I have given you as per my understanding Wi-Fi communication and the Bluetooth communication. Okay, so this is polymorphism, this thing. So Wi-Fi communication behavior has different forms, with one with the parameter, one without parameter. Same to the Bluetooth communication, with parameter and without parameter. But I have covered two concepts of TypeScript here, is a default parameter and the optional parameter. You pass it or you don't pass it, that is okay. Okay, now what do you mean by encapsulation? What do you mean by encapsulation? Encapsulation means combining this complete thing. See, combining this complete thing into one capsule, if you can see this. So this thing will straight away go into the memory. Well, this also would be in the memory, but this is in the execution part. This will go inside the execution part. So where chip is equals to new ESP chip, right? This would be really allocating memory on your RAM. So on the RAM, node would be working, and inside the node this allocation would be happening, right? So this thing can be encapsulation. This thing can be encapsulation, means combining this whole thing together and creating this object. Remember that this thing is called as object. So this thing is called as what? Object. And on the object you are calling behavior. On the object you are calling behavior. But if you see, you don't have access to the registers. Dot. Can you see there is no access to the registers directly? So you cannot manipulate registers from here. So if you want to manipulate the registers, you need to go via some behavior. You need to go via what? Behavior. So chip is equals to new ESP chip. This this line can be considered as encapsulation, which is nothing but what? Object creation. So you have created the object which has all the facilities that you have written over here, for making Bluetooth communication, for making Wi-Fi communication. Okay, so ESP chip is there. So this thing is called as encapsulation, creating capsule of complete thing and placing inside the memory. Okay, now this thing is called as inheritance. So what I can do, let me create a class chip. Let me create what class? Chip. And see, this class ESP chip extends chip. Now if you see this class chip, this is ESP chip. Now class ESP chip is extending to the chip. So you are saying that ESP chip is a chip. Now this is a generalization. So every chip would be having some manufacturer. So I can write manufacturer. Every chip would be having some manufacturer. Current, what kind of current chip is required? Is number. Then communication is serial or parallel, is string. Right, this is your chip. And see how you have defined the parameters. Or you can say state and behavior are the theoretical terms, but in the programming you can say class level fields and the class fields and the methods, right? So these three things are there. Now if you go to the object chip dot, can you see manufacturer? Here you can assign the manufacturer whatever ABC. But if you see this, where chip is holding the object of ESP chip, where chip is holding object of ESP chip, and manufacturer field is not available inside ESP chip. Inside ESP chip there is only what? Registers. But the manufacturer field is not available. Remember that due to this is a relationship, you can say is a relation. Which kind of relation it is? Is a relation. ESP chip is a chip. And what chip is having? Every chip would be having manufacturer, current for processing, and communication type, serial or parallel. You can define all these things here, right? So Wi-Fi communication is there, BLE communication is there, on-off is there. And can you see this? This line gives a proof that proves that the inheritance is working in a properly, because this is a different class, so ESP chip is extending what chip, and chip is having these features. So tomorrow you would be having another Arduino. Extends chip. I think some spelling is wrong for Arduino. Okay, now if you create object of Arduino, where ARD Arduino, see ARD dot, can you see these three parameters are as it is available? Say communication way, current, and the manufacturer, because every chip is nothing but or every your hardware is nothing but what? Chip. So ESP chip is extending chip. Arduino is also extending the chip. Inheritance. Remember that. What's that? Inheritance. Well, let me push this much code. Say TypeScript object oriented principles. Remember that goal of this course is not to understand object oriented principles but to learn the Angular. And these things, if you know all these things, that is okay. What's that? Fine. So if you can see this, I have pushed the code. Please go through the code in 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and let me know. We'll continue.